Welcome back to the Optimization Toolbox. My name is Jenna Redfield. Today we have a special guest. This is Tami Enfield of Brand Yourself Consulting. And she's actually been on the podcast before, I believe, a couple years ago, probably
Was a,
pre-pandemic.
I think it was pre-pandemic.
And so we ran into each other a couple weeks ago at social media breakfast, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I really want to have you on again because my brand has shifted into more about personal branding, but more about visibility and video." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, she has some really interesting framework she's created, some tools for us to be more authentic with our personal brands." So I wanted to introduce her. So welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you, Jenna. I'm excited to be back.
Yes, we've definitely changed a lot in the last 4 years or
I like
six
that we've
years, I
stayed
guess.
in touch, though, following you, and we
For
reconnected
sure.
on. Yeah,
It's nice when you're in person or when we see each other in person because then
yeah,
it's so much different than just having online friends, which I do love having online friends, but there's nothing like seeing someone in person, which I thankfully go to a lot of networking events, so I run into people a lot that I know.
yeah,
So the last time you were on, I think we were talking about story brand, right?
yep,
That was kind of
yep.
what the main thing you were doing. Can you kind of walk through maybe a little bit about how your job and business has transitioned over the last couple of years?
I love StoryBrand. I think StoryBrand is a really great framework for businesses. But what I realized was I love helping the human side of brands. So like, making sure that the founders show up on social and show up on the website and have stories to tell. And although I still use StoryBrand, I have focused more lately on the personal brand and how to help humanize content, help brands and founders be more authentic. And then high dream is to improve the culture of social media because
Mm.
if we're all more real and less performative, social will feel better.
I agree. I think that there is a lot that has shifted on social in the last
Hmm.
5 years, specifically since COVID. I think I wasn't even on TikTok before COVID. And now that was, I guess, last year my most popular account in terms of views. So it's been interesting to see the change over time. So, what prompted that change? Because I know StoryBrand is definitely more of an established framework that you didn't obviously create, but there's a lot of certified people that teach it. What was that shift? What was the light bulb moment where you're like, I need to expand beyond this?
I think when I really try to teach authenticity, it's so subjective,
Mm,
right? I think there's a study that was 53% of people don't actually think we're being authentic or something when we say we are.
mm,
And focusing on the customer is StoryBrand's thing. Don't talk about yourself, focus on the make the customer the
mhm,
hero. And I think we have to put ourselves in the content for it to be authentic. We have to show up with core value, like as who we are, understanding what our core values are. And although I said I still use StoryBrand framework, I'm still
mhm,
certified. I think I just wanted to focus more on the creator.
mm,
So with all of the frameworks I learned while I was researching and learning personal branding, I came up with something called the Candid Content Framework, where, yes, we talk about aligning all of our content with our customer. We understand our customer, we storytell, but then the second half of the framework is how do we feel about the content as the creator? Do we feel like we've been a little bit daring? That's how I get away with
mm,
saying vulnerable without
mhm,
saying vulnerable. Do we feel good about it? Are we inspiring people? And does it make us happy? Because I've run into so many people that are like, I don't like my content. It's boring. It
mm,
doesn't sound like me. So, how
mm.
can we fix that? We need more of you in it.
Do you know why people do that? Why they create boring content? Are they just afraid? What is the reason why?
Well, in my experience, it's a few different things. It's safer if you're not pushing edges or sharing strong opinions or being bold and out there, right? It
Mhm,
feels safer. I think for women, especially, I haven't run into it with a whole lot of men. They feel like if they start to share personal stories, they won't be seen as professional, as if they state so many of us were trained to like show up as a badass business owner and we shouldn't bring our personal side to
mm,
work. And I think that asking people to be vulnerable and tell personal stories, it's different than how we came into it, if that makes sense. So it's just like
yeah. We've almost been not brainwashed, but we've been
conditioned
to
to, yeah.
stop sharing the sides that aren't deemed professional
Yeah,
because it's
like,
going to impact your job security or something.
and I've interviewed a few people that like took them a while to even talk about being a mom
Mm,
on LinkedIn, and they didn't want to share that side of them because they didn't want people to think that they had different priorities, or
mm.
it's a really interesting problem to help people solve.
I feel like there's so many pieces from a whether it's psychological perspective of
Hmm.
just self-limiting beliefs, there is pressure from society, there's fear of job security. There's so many reasons why people maybe don't. What do you find is a main one? Why people aren't their full selves online?
I run into a lot of people who don't think they have anything interesting to say,
Oh, interesting.
too. So it's either they're afraid of being judged, they don't think they have anything interesting to say, or they think they'll not be seen as professional. Those are like the top three.
And so when people are in this state, what are they doing? Are they just posting really basic stuff? What are they even posting?
Nothing.
They're
Most
just
of them
not
are
doing
either
anything.
posting nothing, sharing really safe content. I think for a long time, social media marketers, too, as long as we pointed to a blog post or had some sort of tips and tricks or were teaching something, that content worked for a while.
Hmm.
And I think some people are still stuck in that outdated
Yeah,
strategy.
it has changed. And I think for worse, I do think COVID changed things because we all realize we're all in this mess together. I think some
Yep.
people really let loose their masks and just
Mm,
unmasked and just like, and I think that really worked on platforms like TikTok specifically, where you don't have to wear makeup. It's very raw,
yeah.
real. I think Instagram is becoming more like that. It used
Yep.
to not be so much. It used to be very polished, very aesthetic. And now I feel like because of Reels, I think there's a lot more on
Hmm.
Instagram. And I think that's allowing more people to feel more comfortable sharing stuff, which I think before. So I think it has like over time, I think it's gotten a little bit better.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on like those shifts?
Well, I think we all crave connection now.
Mm-hmm.
And but pre-COVID, we found that in person more than we found it
Mm.
online. And then during COVID, we all had to shift like Zoom. We did our first podcast in person. I drove
Yes, we
up to
did.
your house,
Yes, I remember.
Now Zoom is more, well, it's easier, less
It's
travel
easier.
time, it's
Yeah.
cheaper. There's a lot of shifts that have happened. And I think with social, we all are just craving that human connection. And you can tell when people are being performative, I think,
Mm.
and then that lacks the authenticity. And then you don't connect with who you're hoping to connect with.
Can you explain what performative means in
Oh,
terms of
performing.
what characteristics is that and how does that feel both to the person watching and the person doing it?
It's a good question. I usually will give, and it's Pride month, but I will usually give the example of brands or people that throw up the rainbow on
Mm.
in June only,
Mm-hmm.
just because they
Yeah.
want the clicks or the likes, right?
Yeah.
Like only talk about Pride during Pride month, otherwise they
Mm-hmm.
don't talk about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's a way of being performative. On a brand piece, I think for a personal brand, being performative is never showing the struggle.
Mm.
Zero possibility that you haven't gone through some sort of hiccup this week. Like there's
Yeah.
anything, be
Yeah.
personal or through work. And with performative posts, I think you're only showing the high side. And
Mm.
you see it in a lot of like, if you follow anybody on Facebook posting vacation pictures,
Mm-hmm.
they've never had a better vacation than the pictures they're posting, right?
Yeah.
Like this was just a magical, and they're pulling each other's hair out. The parents are fighting about
Mm-hmm.
what to, like, that's not all,
So
it's mostly
sunshines and
wonderful, but
rainbows.
it's
It's
not,
not,
yeah. And
yeah.
where performative stuff comes in. If you're never
Mm.
sharing any sort of struggles, and this is also where like the brand comes in. I can share my client struggles all day long. I can talk about how hard it is for somebody to show up authentically themselves on online. And but I never talked about how hard it was for me. Like that feels icky because
But,
I struggle with showing up on video all the time.
mm.
I love writing, but
Mm-hmm.
like showing up on video, I have a podcast, but like, I don't ever
Yes.
talk about how sometimes I just, and I get it, then I'm not being real.
Okay, this is a really random question. Do you ever feel like sometimes by sharing the bad, that feels performative too, though? Like that's what happens to me is like I'm like be more vulnerable and then I like become vulnerable. I'm like, is that performative? Like I struggle is like,
That's a
am I
really good,
I don't
yeah,
know.
that's a
That's
good question. I do think that the rags to riches story or the myself with 72 cents in my checking
mm,
account and then built this multi-million-dollar business, or like
hmm.
bankrupt and then wrote
Yeah.
this book and whatever. Repeating that over and 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 over again, I think becomes performative because you don't
Mm,
remember what that was like.
mm,
Like
yeah.
it happened 15 years ago, you don't remember the experience of being in it, so you can't
Mm,
show up as empathetically as if it happened yesterday. So like finding new ways to connect with your audience and with the people you want to help with new stories is good.
Mhm.
But I think the other thing I think is when you're sharing a vulnerable story, you want to make sure that you're sharing it from the scar and not the wound, right? So if you're sharing it from the wound, you're probably still triggered by it. And
Mm.
that energy, you're probably looking for validation or you're looking for comments on, oh, I can't believe that happened. Like you're for
Mm.
attention on that specific thing. If you're sharing from the scar, you're sharing the lesson learned from it. So I think
Mm.
that there's performative if you're sharing the trauma while it's happening
Mm.
versus this is something that happened to me and this is what I learned from it. So,
My question then is, okay, well, if you're going through something traumatic, is it still okay to share like that? So, for example, I'll give an example of my own. So, just a couple days ago, I posted on Instagram that I've been having a lot of skin issues, and I usually put a filter on because my skin doesn't always look great. But I
hmm
decided to not put a filter on and talk about it and say,
hmm
hey, I have acne really bad right now, and it's really flaring, and this is what it looks like every day. And that was really vulnerable for me because I don't usually share my skin,
Yeah.
but also happening still. So it's not like it's something that happened in the past. It is something that's
hmm
happening now. What are your thoughts on that? Should I not have done that, or
Well,
I don't
are
know.
you, when you post, I mean, your help, you're looking for
I am
feedback,
looking for
right? You're
help.
looking
Yeah. Well,
for,
I'm
yeah,
also sharing that I'm going to be working on it. It's almost the
yeah,
journey of I'm going to be documenting my research and the things that I'm doing to try to fix myself. And that's something that I've always done for myself. So
yeah,
for me, it wasn't like, oh, boo-hoo me. Like, it's like,
yeah.
this is something that's happening and this is how I'm working on it. And
I do
also,
think,
yeah.
yeah, you self-aware enough around it, like you help other people going through
Hmm.
the same thing and it's
Yeah.
not triggering you.
No, it's not. I mean,
You know, like I
yeah.
talk a lot when my dad passed away, I talked a lot about grief and how odd, like just journey of grief. And by no means are you ever like over. I wanted to share because I wanted to connect with other people that were either going through the same thing or had gone through
Mhm.
the same thing or and
Sometimes
I
you just
think that
need people, you know?
think if you're at a place mentally where it isn't, you're not seeking something from the like seeking internal, some sort of internal
Mm.
validation or internal healing. I don't know. We're getting pretty
Yeah.
honest,
Yeah,
but I
I
do
know.
think that there's
Yeah.
like an article I read about some attorney sharing like, well, my divorce papers today and just like on went all out
Mhm.
on how horrible the divorce was and there wasn't like a point
Yeah.
to the story. If he's a divorce attorney and said,
Mhm.
"Here's what I've learned,"
Yeah.
like that would be different. But if you're just
It's
trauma
trauma dumping.
dumping,
Yeah, I was gonna say it's
yeah,
trauma dumping. Yeah, which I don't think is a good brand strategy ever.
no.
And
So I think like that's where, it's definitely
yeah.
share the lessons learned.
Yeah, one of the things that I have learned is always come at it with an angle in a
Yeah.
sense where
hmm
I don't think a lot, and I think in a marketing sense all the time. I always
Same.
think, how can I use this as a marketing
Same.
post or
Everyone's like
content?
my
Uh,
friends are like, you are always thinking through a marketing lens, Tammy. I'm like, I can't help it. It's
I
a
do too.
storytelling lens. I mean,
That's
what it is.
I literally every day I'm like, turn this into a story, or how can I
Yeah.
like make a lesson out of this, even if it's
hmm
something bad that happened. I'm like, that is a weird way to live, but it is how I live. And I think unfortunately, the longer you're in marketing, the more you just it's
It's just
natural.
do it. Yeah.
It's the same as when I went to film school, and every time I watched a movie, now I'm thinking, I wonder how much budget that cost, or like I like look at it, I'm like, where are they
Yeah.
film location? Like I movies differently now, and so
Yeah.
it's once you learn the behind the
The
scenes,
craft
you
of it.
can't.
Yeah, my friend's an author, and she will often say that she's like books are ruined for her now
Oh,
because
really?
she reads them and like the author's doing with this character. Oh, I wonder, they're gonna be. Oh, I didn't really like that one. It's kind of like ruined
Yeah.
reading
And
for her.
I thought about that yesterday. I was like, man, I look at life as a marketing lens. And so many people I struggle with to try to help other people see that because it's like they don't look through it in that lens. They're like, oh, I would have never thought of making this content. Or, oh, wow, you're always thinking of, people like say that to me.
Right.
Like, you're always opportunizing
Yeah.
things. And I'm like, but that's like how I function. And I
Right.
also try to make frameworks out of everything. And that's something that I've just always done. And
hmm
think AI has been helpful with that, with coming up with, acronyms I would have never thought of in a million
Yeah.
years. But for me, that has been something that I just naturally gravitate towards that. So if somebody doesn't gravitate towards thinking from a marketing mindset, how do you help them?
Well, I think it's really then it's the basics of storytelling, right? So if I'm helping somebody build a personal brand, we will usually do a discovery session. I ask how they got to where they got to, and
Mm.
out of that conversation, we can pull some core stories from it, right? Like this made me think differently about what I do. And so I went and got this certification. Or the reason I pivoted for me, like pivoting from non-human content creation is a story, right? Like you get bored
Mm-hmm.
writing posts that really have no human connection to it. So,
Yeah.
like, that's a story of how I got to where I got to. So, there's like
Mm.
core stories that we start with. And then from there, once it's like practicing, and you probably, I mean, video way more than I am, and you coach
True.
people through video.
True.
And like, the more you do it, the easier it becomes, right?
100%. It is practice. And I think most people don't realize how much practice goes into things in terms
Hmm.
of I've been doing this now 10 years. And then people compare their day one. And I'm like, dude, like,
Yeah.
there's
No,
like, you can't. And
mm-mm.
when I was in my early 20s, I was like, I know that I'm young. I know that I have a lot to learn. And the more that you work on it, the more confident you are as well. Like,
Hmm.
confidence to me is a huge part of making content is you get more confident when you do more content because
Right.
you aren't as self-conscious, you know what doesn't work. And I think it's those early adopters or the people early in their journey that are the most fragile with their
Yeah.
confidence. How do you help people through that side of it?
Well, I think we pick stories that feel safe, that we're not trauma
Mm,
dumping and that are easy-ish to tell and they aren't super vulnerable. But once they post something and they realize the feedback that they get,
mm,
it becomes easier and easier to be, one of the first times that I posted, it was mental health awareness month or week or day, and I posted a handful of like my antidepressant,
mm,
anti-anxiety, and like I just posted a picture of it, and I was just, embarrassed by this, but I just want people to know that are taking this, they're not alone. And it was like I'm an open book, so it didn't
mm.
really bother me to be
Same.
sharing it, right?
Yeah.
And I got so much feedback that they were like, "Thank you." Like
Mm.
I'm me too, like this that a little bit of I don't know, energy or a coin in the
Yeah.
bank of like, okay, I can do this again, right? Like I keep
Yeah.
sharing this stuff. And I think that's why I was able to like walk through grief a little bit. I mean, I
Mm.
didn't share everything.
Yeah, you
Like,
can't share everything. And that's the other thing too that I've learned is the boundaries of what is oversharing
right.
because that's my bigger issue is not I'm not vulnerable enough. Sometimes
The
I'm too vulnerable.
vulnerability hangover. Yeah.
Yeah, which I like because there's times where I'm like, oof, and that's why I like posting on stories because I'm like, look, if I
Yeah.
regret it, it goes away. Like that's why I'm most vulnerable on stories because I'm like, there'll be times where it's like 18 and I'm like, do I delete that? But I'm like, it's gonna go away in 6 hours anyways.
Yeah.
Like so for me, I always tell people to start with Instagram stories because I'm like, it is the
Yeah.
best way because it's not permanent and it's more that's people are watching stories for that kind of stuff anyways. Like
Yeah.
to me, I watch Instagrams because that's where the real stuff is, in my
Yeah.
opinion, versus Reels or LinkedIn. Like I see real stuff on stories. Or
Yeah.
even TikTok. I feel like those
TikTok.
two, I would say TikTok and stories are like the two places where I see the
Mhm.
most vulnerability. Maybe even Facebook a little bit. But not, I guess it depends
It's
if it's
usually
like a
people are
friend.
sharing the same reel.
Yeah, or I'm saying more from like a written perspective. It's a
Yeah.
little different, and so, because a lot of times it's their Facebook friends, so it's not like the world.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about is like I know you talk about like there's a boost when people are like happy for it. What if you get negative feedback or negative
Oh.
comments? Because that happened to me. I mean, it's everyone that's posted something online. You've gotten a negative comment or DMs or people. I've gotten a hate email once. I don't know if I told
Oh.
you about this. I should talk about this on the here. It was in I called a hate email, but basically it was a person saying that I shared too much about myself. That was the email. I got an
Did
email.
you respond with like, well, don't listen?
Well,
Like,
basically, I shared this on my social. I
good.
read the email out loud, and people like I hate like loved reaction to it because they're like, "I love that you're actually sharing this," and
Yeah.
they had a lot of support for me when I was reading it because I'm like, this person clearly is. I wish I had it with me, but this person is clearly doesn't like the fact that I'm talking about myself. I'm
Right.
like,
Triggered like
they're triggered by
something.
somehow. Yeah,
Yeah. Like something about what you said is what's in the, I don't know. I cheer for people who have their first hater. That means their
really.
post, some sort of chord and one
Yes.
person hated it, but that
Hmm.
probably means five people needed it.
Yeah, 10% are gonna love you,
Yep.
10% are gonna hate you, and then like 80% are just gonna be very midline.
Yep.
So you gotta not listen to those 10%, but you also like it's gonna come, but then also 10% of people are gonna be obsessed with you. So
Yeah.
like going back to personal brand, I think I spoke on a panel about this once where it's like you're trying to make some people not like your content
Right.
because
You don't
you're
want
not
it
trying to
because
impress everyone.
then
Yeah.
you're being, it's mediocre. It's probably performative.
And that's the
You're
thing.
not saying much. If nobody hates your
Mhm.
content, you're not saying much.
Yeah, and I something yesterday. What was I at? Yeah, where they're talking about niching, and it was interesting because
Mm,
it's like oh, I think we were talking about podcasting, and it's like it used to be like you're trying to reach everyone, and I'm like,
right.
no, the more unique and random and niche, the better, because you're gonna find that specific person, um, versus not for everyone. And like, and people want to please everyone, but it's gonna find no one. And I think
Right.
that's so true with just branding and marketing in general is you do have to be kind of specific. And that's what stands you apart from your competitors or from other people. What are your thoughts on niching and all that
Well,
with your
that's,
personal
I
brand?
think that that's one of the ways social has changed. When social first
Mm,
came about, it was cast the widest net you can,
mm,
right? It was a new way to reach people that you never would have reached before. So it was
yes.
cast the widest net you
Mm,
can and then put them down a funnel, the
yeah.
sales funnel, like get
Yep.
down the funnel. And I think now there's so much content flooding the market. If you are not really specific in your message, you won't
Yeah.
catch anybody.
Yeah. One of the things somebody told me once was like, right when I was starting my Facebook group, it was called Notion, ADHD and Notion, which is
Hmm.
like two things that like are kind of specific, but also very, very overlapping. And
Right.
so somebody was like, are you going to get enough people? Like she was like concerned it's too niche. And I was like, I don't think so. Now 5,000 people are in the group. So it's like, it's not niche. And like, but it's niche enough that like those are all people that have the same thing in common.
Hmm.
And ADHD is a huge like habit, but like it's more and more commonplace. So it's
Hmm.
like, and then Notion it has over 100 million users, so it's not niche. And the people that have ADHD are looking for tools to help them be organized.
Well,
So it's
and
like,
I was diagnosed with ADHD during
yeah,
COVID. I
same.
think that COVID brought the
Well,
crazy out
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think what happened is we were all kind of masking, had to become unmasked, and
until
then
we
everyone.
couldn't.
And
Yeah,
I think,
nobody.
and then I learned from like TikTok because I feel like
Yeah.
TikTok really attracts the ADHD type,
Oh, for
and so
sure.
it's just like everyone on there was ADHD, and I'm like, oh my god, like, and now I'm actually autistic as well. So like, I just got
Mm,
diagnosed in
yeah.
March, so I'm autistic ADHD, and I do talk about that on my. That was a hard one to come out with because
Yeah.
I was afraid of for people because autistic is a lot of judgment, a lot of
Yeah.
stereotypes, and I don't really quite fit the look and what people think of
Well,
autism.
it's a spectrum.
It is a spectrum, and I think, and even like, and but what's interesting is ADHD, which is autism,
Yep.
ADHD even looks different than autism.
Yep.
So I always feel different inside, but I
Hmm.
really masked really well to like really make myself see.
Function.
Yeah, to once I started unmasking, I feel like I was able to be my true self. And that was
Hmm.
actually something that I started doing actually around age 23 was the first time
Good for you.
I ever was like, I just need to be myself and I don't care. I hit like almost a wall where I was like, I'm sick of pretending to be like everyone else. I just need to be myself. And if no one likes me, that's okay. I just need to be myself because I was so miserable
Yeah.
trying to like fit in. And from that moment that I made that decision, I was able to find people that liked the
Yeah.
real me.
Yeah.
I was
Attract
being
the right
authentic.
community. Yep.
But some people, unfortunately, don't know how to be authentic in their own self. So how on earth are they supposed to show up as a
Oh,
brand, you know?
for sure. This I do like. Well, we've always said like start a if you really want to like get to know yourself,
Yeah, so
right?
true.
Like, and I do think like personal branding and exercise and personal
Mm,
development, like you have to know
yes.
yourself very, very well, really show up as yourself. And some want that.
Hmm.
Those aren't my
Mm,
clients, right?
yeah.
Like I think the real magic and the most fun I have is working with people who know themselves really well. Like they have a high emotional, high EQ. They understand what their core values are. When I first started doing some of this work, I had my family, nerd out with me and we all did a core values exercise and blah, blah,
Mm,
blah. I'm telling one of my friends, she's like, "Oh, I've never done one." And I was like, "Oh." So then I like pulled the rest of the group chat, right? Like, has
hmm.
any have a core values exercise? And they're like, no. I was like dumbfounded that this
Mm,
wasn't because I've been doing personal development
yeah.
forever. Like I dumbfounded not everybody
Yeah. Unless you're
knows
presented with it. Yeah, that's true.
what their core values are, and I
What would you recommend that for people that haven't done it? Is there a link? Which one would you recommend, or
hmm.
how do people go
um
about that?
well, I honestly, there was like I just had a
I
bunch
know
of
Brene
words.
Brown
Yeah, I
has,
used
yeah.
hers for sure. She just had a bunch of words and then you circle
Yeah.
them and then
I,
you rank them. That's
hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll leave the link in the show notes
Yeah,
for
that's
people
a
who haven't because I think sometimes people listening are like, I haven't done that, you know, so it's like because
Yeah.
maybe
And
they've never, I've, yeah.
Before Brene Brown, I think I did my first one, Danielle Laporte,
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
the Desire.
Yep. Yep. I thought
That was
that.
the
Yep.
first time where I was like, oh, yeah, I
I
should
think
pay
I did
attention
it
to
in
this.
college, like in a class, because I took like a bunch of leadership classes, and so
Yeah,
maybe
I
I
once
like
did. Yeah.
I feel like I've like it just there's been workshops I've been to that have done them so many
Mhm.
times, and it's like obviously it's changed over the years too. Like
Yeah.
even my strengths, I think I might have shifted on the Strengths Finder. So it's like if
Yeah.
you
They say your top 10 don't really change, but what
yeah, the
shows up
order.
is based
Yeah.
on,
Because
yeah.
I feel one of mine, I think I've become more extroverted as I've aged. So I'm like, I wonder if that has changed some of the way that I show up in some of my strengths. Like I feel
Sure.
like I'm more woo maybe than I was before. I don't even know if that's a word, but I just remember woo
It
was like
is.
kind of
Yep.
like,
The top five. Yep.
yeah, I know it was in my top five, but maybe it was in my top 10 or I don't know. I don't know
It
how much
was
this
in my
is.
top five pre-kids.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
And
so
then
it's
I took
changed.
it again and it was like number 7 or 8. It's
Okay.
good. The top 10 didn't change, but the
Yeah.
order of
I
those did.
think
It was
I think
interesting.
I think some of them have stayed the same. Like ideation is one of mine, input is one of mine.
Mhm. Yep.
Uh
Input, learner, strategic. Those are
mine
three of
mine wasn't
mine.
strategic. Mine was one of them empathy, which is interesting.
That's at the
Um
bottom for me, which is
really?
interesting as well. Yeah.
Okay. But I think that one for
Harmony. I
me,
guess I don't care
okay.
if people get along.
Oh, wait, so that wasn't one of yours or that was?
No, it's
Oh,
way at the bottom.
I don't think harmony. Well, I don't know. I have to look at my I took it when I was like
Yeah.
19. So
You
I
should
think it'd
take it
be
again. That
interesting.
would be
I
interesting.
know. I yeah, I definitely I mean the for like the knock on
Yeah.
maybe. I don't know. I've done
Oh,
the
what are you on the Enneagram?
well, I thought I was a 2 for years, and then I had a friend who's very into the Enneagram, and he convinced me that I'm a 3 wing 2. So I'm more strategic, but with a helper side. I thought I was a 2 wing 3, which I know they're very similar, like,
Yeah.
but two, like almost much more helper focused, and I think I'm a little bit more strategic than a
Hmm.
2. So it took me a really long time to accept that I was a
To
3.
embrace the three.
Yeah, and I've had multiple, and I've a lot of my friends are into it. So like we've talked about many times throughout my years
Mhm.
of just my friends, and so knowing what my friends are, my family, my parents,
Yep.
you know, and they don't really get it, but I'm like I had like the online test, and
Yep.
you know, and then I know the human design, there's all these different like
Yep.
tests. There's the one and Myers-Briggs.
Yep.
There's so many
I've
different
taken them all.
ones. I
Yep.
know, I think we all have, but like in this space you do. But
Yeah.
I think that it's helpful for people to just know themselves. And I do think that the internet has allowed more people to learn about themselves because
Yeah.
of tools that
Well, you
maybe they
see
didn't know
yourself
exist.
reflected back. AI has been a really good tool
Oh
for me
yeah,
to reflect back to myself.
100%.
I found another one, YOS, Y.OS. It
Hmm.
is Simon Sinek's YYY.
Oh
So
yeah.
somebody developed a like, what's your why?
Oh, cool. So it's like a
Yeah.
test you can take,
Yeah,
or
it's a
I'll have to
yeah.
look at that one and put it in
Yeah,
show
it's
notes
pretty
because
cool.
I one of the things that and one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is like I feel like there's so much potential in people to be able to use content effectively to share their
Hmm.
stories. I know that you've created some frameworks. Can you
Hmm.
run through them a little bit just so that we know what they are and kind of maybe how we could use them in our brands? Or I know you might probably use them mostly with clients, but is there anything you could share with us on this
Yeah, no,
episode?
I came up with the Candid Content Framework, which is an acronym. There's two sides to the framework. The first one is customer focused. So if we through the CAN, it's C, are you connecting?
Mm,
Are you with your core values and your customer, right? And is it narrative? Are you telling a story? So like connection, are you showing empathy? Are you showing
mm,
up in your values and are you telling a story? So that's customer focused, right? Like
yep.
how can you connect with the customer
Hmm.
those ways.
Yes.
And then the second half of the framework, the DID, one is daring, like are you an edge of some sort, a
Mm,
leadership edge? Are you a little bit vulnerable? Are you a little scared
mm,
to hit post?
mm,
Like it's the daring piece. And
mm-hmm,
then are you feeling like you're being inspirational? Like are you
mm.
inspired
Oh,
by your work? And then the last one is delight. Like, does it make you happy? Right? Like, because I thought that
yes.
energy comes through in
Mm,
content.
yes.
And to make it truly authentic or for it to work, you have to have only one side. There's
Mm,
zero, there, like very little has all of it, right?
mm-hmm.
Like you can't be daring, delighted, and inspired all in the same. I mean, you maybe could, but
Yeah. So you have from those
you
three
don't
or
have
like
to.
yeah,
You
okay.
just, you'd make sure that it has an element of, because I think like the digital reflection of your energy shows up in your content.
Yes.
It's
Oh,
like a,
100%.
almost like you, if show up on video and you are pissed, everyone's going to know you're pissed. Like I think
Yeah, your energy does
your energy
translate.
comes
Yeah,
across, and I think it comes across in video easier, but it does come across in
a hundred
what you
percent.
post. And so making sure that like
Mm,
you are proud of what you're posting, you're happy with it, you're inspired by it is as important as
mhm.
the how am I connecting with my audience.
Yeah, I truly think that it evolves over time in terms of what your like how you're showing up, and that's why like when I do video content days with people, we film it all at once. And
Hmm.
so it's like hoping that we keep the energy going and hopefully that
Right.
actually shows. But then sometimes by the end of the day, they're starting to burn out a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's like that's why like the first like 3, 4 videos are kind of nervous. They're still, tripping over
Yep.
words. And then the middle part is really where they're like getting energized. And by the end,
Hmm.
some of them, I honestly, most people are still energized by the end, but they're starting to slow down a
Yeah.
little bit. They're
Yeah, you
starting to
can
feel like
feel
I've
it.
said this a million times. But I still think that, you're in the headspace to make content that day
Yeah.
versus if you're like, oh, I got to make a video today.
Right.
Like that
No,
to
it's a
me
good,
is
yeah, to
like,
batch that's a good
yeah,
idea. And if you're in the right energy and the right, you keep your
things like if you're making videos, like don't do it when you're not looking your best or feeling your best because you're going to feel
Mhm.
self-conscious.
And
So
that
like,
energy comes out. Yeah,
so
you don't
maybe
feel, you're not don't just confident.
yeah, and then do some jumping jacks or like,
Do the Superman
energize.
pose.
Yeah, like I true with anything, going on a Zoom
Yep.
call, going on a podcast,
Podcast, yeah.
speaking. I think bravery and facing your fears around just being visible, like that's kind of thing I help teach is more of
Mm-hmm.
just being like putting your face on camera. Like that is a hard thing to
Right.
overcome is the self-criticism, is the
Yeah. I was gonna say one of the other tools I have frameworks is I create a personal brand message map. So it's like a
okay.
foundational one page.
Mm,
And it's on like a reminder. I have it hanging right in front of like
mm,
right behind the screen here. And it shows like reminds me when I'm in that headspace of overthinking my content. It
yes.
grounds me back to here's the core stories. These are the core values. These are my brand pillars, right? Like these are the
Mm,
top five
love
problems my
that.
customers deal with. So it's like a
Yes.
foundational piece that
Yeah.
can
It's a
bring you back
pillar.
to
It's a
yourself.
pillar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
back to yourself. And I think that that's been really helpful for people who are trying to put themselves out there more because
Hmm.
you tend to, I mean, I overthink all the time. I'm
Yes.
really good at it.
Yes. I think that the overthinking is the downfall of every content creator because
Yep.
sometimes you just have to post and not think about it. And I think
Hmm.
that's a skill to learn. And I
Hmm.
think it takes years of practice, but you'll get there. I don't
Yeah.
ever think about it for the most part.
That's
I would
good. I mean,
say
you've been
like
doing it for a while though, right? Like
yeah, that's what I'm
people
saying. I
compare their
don't think, yeah, and I've been making YouTube videos for over 10 years and I've had a podcast for 8 years. And so it's like I
yeah.
don't get nervous anymore about anything. And when it
Right.
comes to content, I just don't. And that's taken many and hundreds of hours at this point of so when people are like how can I be like you, I'm like you gotta work.
You just got to
you
do it.
gotta you got time and the hours. I know we're kind of coming up to the end. Is there any
Mhm.
last minute lessons or things you want people to take away from this episode that we haven't covered yet?
If you're having somebody help you with your content, this is the other thing, right?
Mm,
Like, so there are a ton of people who have people like you and I help them
hmm.
with their content.
Yeah.
I think what most people fail to do is help educate their content creators on their brand voice.
Ah.
So, part of going through your core values, going through how you want to show up, what your key phrases
Hmm.
are, what your audience is, like, how do you want to show up? Mine is, described as bold, casual, and witty, right?
Mm.
Like there's like casual, I'm bold, but I'm also
Yes.
like witty. So if someone were to write my content,
Yes.
they would know, like the top three, and then I have other words like compassionate and empowering in
Yeah.
there. But
Okay.
um, I do think that's one of the things that gets missed.
Yeah, I probably sounds terrible, but I created a custom GPT on ChatGPT for my voice. It's called My
Hmm.
Voice GPT.
Why that doesn't sound terrible at all. People
I don't
use
know. Yeah, I
we can
just
use my picture of this personal brand
yes.
message map, put it into a custom
Yes.
GPT,
And
and
then say
people can,
right
yeah.
as me. Yeah. And I
Hmm.
think that's the helpful thing that I didn't really have a voice. Like I didn't think about it until I was making this GPT. And what I did, this is actually a hack. I asked ChatGPT to describe my voice because
Oh, for sure. You put
I
in,
didn't
yeah.
know. Yeah, like of all the things I've told to you, how would you
Yeah.
describe the way that I talk to
Yeah.
you? And so that was helpful to even hear back. So if
Well,
you're
so that's, yeah, using AI self-reflection, take
yes.
like past newsletters, social
Yes.
posts,
Put
past
them in there.
podcast
Yep. Yep.
transcripts, put it in there and say, what do I sound like? And it'll give you a
That's a
good
great
start.
idea, which we couldn't do before, which is
No.
nice that that exists now because it's like a lot of this was also manual and we were like guessing what's the I have an episode coming out before this one is going to be about custom GPTs with
Oh,
a
good.
AI expert because I
Yep.
what is that I have made so much personal growth ChatGPT
Oh,
because I
yeah,
learned
it's
so
huge.
much. And I honestly feel like it has improved my life so much in
Mhm.
terms of the things that I just was questioning for so long that I'm
Mhm.
getting more answers. And I feel like it would have taken me an extra couple of years of just Googling to
And
find.
figuring that
So,
out yourself.
yeah,
Yeah.
so this is helpful. So awesome. Well, thank you so much. How do we find you? I know you have a
Sure.
podcast as well, and I'll be on as well.
I
So you guys should listen to
do.
that
Yes.
episode, which
Yes.
we're about to record.
Yep.
How find you online?
I am Tami Enfield, both on LinkedIn and on Instagram at Tami Enfield. My company's name is brandyourselfconsulting.com, and my podcast is the Candid Content Revolution.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.